I want to thank our sponsors for our summer walking tour series, Century 21 Department Store and Greenberry's Tea and Coffee Shop on the Morristown Green. And once again, many thanks to George Glory, who's going to be our guide for today. So I'll turn it over to George.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thanks.
Well, welcome to Dover.
Thank you.
Historic Dover. So for the last 7 years, what you see here now is all volunteer work. This house was part of Doctors Row. Doctors Row, this section of West Blackwell Street, was all doctors' houses. Most of the houses have been torn down, but if you pass here, there's a picture of Doctors Row on the wall here to give you an idea of the stately houses that were in this section of Blackwell Street. 2 houses still remain today as part of Doctors Row. The rest of them have been torn down and replaced by business. Western end of the Blackwell Street Historic District. As a matter of fact, it extends up to the end of the block. At the end of the block, we have a very rare building, 1874. It's called the Pearson Block Building, and it's a row house building. Very common in New York City, but very rare in Morris County. As a matter of fact, the building itself is eligible to be listed on the Historic National Registry of Historic Sites. You can't see it from here, but it's a beautiful building, but because the viaduct was built, it sort of has gotten shoved in the background, and very few people, even living in Dover, even know it's there. It began in 1722. John Jackson bought 500 acres of land from the proprietors of New Jersey. And up at Jackson's Brook, which runs right through Hurd Park, he built Morris County's second iron ore forge. And the ore came from the Dickerson Mine, which was right up on Canfield Avenue in Mine Hill. They used to bring the ore by horseback and brought it to his forge. And from there, he'd turn it into bars of iron, and he would transfer it to Patterson, where they would use it for manufacturing of products. By horseback. They used to put it in saddles on horseback until the Morris Canal came. The Morris Canal was the greatest event in transporting produce, iron, anything, all the products that were finished. John Jackson went out of business in 1750 because of an act from Parliament. Parliament told the colonies that all the raw products that were produced had to be shipped to England, where they finished off the products and sold them back to the colonies. So in 1750, poor John Jackson went out of business, and Hertz Randolph bought his property. And that's how this whole section became part of Randolph Township. In 1792, the owner, I think it was Shotwell, hired Moses Hurd from Dover, New Hampshire, to work on his forge there. And at the time, Dover was named Old Tye. And you'll learn in a little bit why Dover at one time was known as Old Tye. But the Hurds eventually, Dover, when it became incorporated in 1826, they adopted the name of Dover.
That's it. These story poles were something that I struggled with for about 4 years before I got a permit to put it up. And then after I got a permit to put it up, I didn't know what I wanted to carve on there. And one day, if any of you know the Delvys, I was walking with Danny Delvey, and he was telling me about he and his sister used to sit down here this Ulster Ironworks and watch them roll red hot steel. And I started doing research about the history of Dover, and the most marvelous thing that I came up with was the Morris Canal. I couldn't believe what they had back there for 100 years that worked from a canal that had been built, and all the locks and all the inclined planes. And so I tried to carve them on here.